I am Eric Sternlicht, and I'm a compassion champ. I received my PhD from UCLA in physiology and kinesiology. My research was on the effects of exercise and diet on diabetes. The general consensus about plant-based eating and eating for health, for disease prevention, is not covered very much at all, whether it be at undergraduate education or graduate level. Most of it follows the USDA guidelines, and they're who the registered dietitians follow. The government funds the USDA, but there's a lot of special interest groups. You'll have Pepsi funding a symposium at one of the conferences, which then brings up some conflict of interest. The USDA is a group that not only sets the Americans' dietary guidelines, but they also subsidize the food industry. So they're subsidizing the beef industry, the dairy industry, the corn industry, and that's why we see so much high fructose corn syrup being used in processed foods, because with the subsidies, it's very inexpensive. So we're subsidizing, as a government, very unhealthy foods that lead to disease. The American Cancer Society doesn't disseminate information on diet because they're not getting funding from dietary groups. So 7 of the top 10 diseases, both in terms of morbidity and mortality, are diet related. Over 80% of all cancers are diet and lifestyle related. Diet plays a key role in heart disease, cancer. You can move down the list to diabetes, obesity. The primary protein in dairy is a tumor promoter. Many of the clinicians aren't aware of that. They don't have a diet, disease, and exercise class. They're not taught nutrition. We're all having mutated genes, even healthy individuals that never develop tumors, whether benign or malignant. So the first step in cancer development is what's known as initiation. And initiation is when the gene gets mutated within the nucleus of the cell. And depending upon one's diet, that initiated cell can either be promoted to grow. So you're going from a pre-neoplastic cell, and a neoplasm is a tumor, to an actual neoplasm. And then depending upon the local environment, which your diet has a key role in, it will either speed up its development or slow down its development. Most individuals who don't develop cancer are able to either repair those damaged genes, or sometimes we go into pre-programmed cell death. It's called apoptosis. So there are various ways, and the p53 gene system is the system within the cell that repairs or programs the cell to stop its growth, to die, pre-programmed cell death, or to repair. So that's going on all the time. Diet plays a key role either in the support of the p53 system or in the repression of its activity. In the last 10 years, there's been a lot of research in an area what's known as epigenetics. It's looking at the environment and its impact, but most specifically at the environment of the developing fetus. What the mother eats, her diet, whether she is overweight or obese during pregnancy, whether she develops gestational diabetes, all of those factors that the mother provides to the developing fetus impact that fetus. So if the mother is eating an unhealthy diet, if they're sedentary, if they happen to be overweight or obese, there's a much greater likelihood of childhood obesity, of the development of diabetes, type 2 diabetes in the infant. Much greater likelihood that they're going to develop as teenagers into some of the more chronic diseases. So if we were to compare a pregnant mother eating animal-based products versus cigarette smoking, while you would prefer neither of them, animal-based products are more damaging or dangerous to the fetus, to the developing fetus, than is cigarette smoking. With cigarette smoking, it's impacting the fetus to some degree, but it's really impacting the mother. She's developing the lung cancer or the esophageal or mouth cancer, whereas the foods that she's eating are really what are nourishing the infant, and the foods that they eat end up being the chemicals that make up our body and our cells. It's more dangerous for a pregnant mother to be eating animal-based products than to be smoking a cigarette when we're looking at the fetal development. Dioxin is actually a class of chemicals. It's a group of chemicals that you find primarily in animal-based products. It's extremely toxic. It's a carcinogen. You'll find some of it in fertilizers and pesticides, and that's how it gets into the food supply. Everyone has some in their body, but as cattle, as pigs and other animals eat those grains, they end up concentrating it in their fat, in their bodies. So the higher up on the food chain, the higher the concentration becomes of that chemical. Typically, you don't see dioxin toxicity. What you see is the chronic diseases that are being developed as a result of it in the body. And that's, primarily going to be cancer in the form of dioxins, and you're going to see changes in the immune function. You're going to see mutations in those genes, so you get that initiation of tumor development. It inhibits that p53 system, so we can no longer repair those cancer cells, so now they continue to grow.